The massive training hall of the Stellar Academy was quiet yet tense. Rows of seats, each designed to hold multiple alien cadets, stretched across the chamber. Lights from the high ceiling reflected on the polished metal floor, casting long, thin shadows. Ships, drones, and holographic targets hung suspended around the room, ready for the day's first challenge. Cadets from across the galaxy had arrived months earlier for the elite training program, but today marked the official beginning of their real test. Rumors about the human instructor had traveled ahead of them, whispered in every corner of the academy. She was said to be unstoppable. Legends spoke of her completing exercises faster than sensors could track, solving complex scenarios before they even fully unfolded. Some even claimed she could anticipate the moves of entire fleets, all while maintaining perfect calm. Among the cadets were representatives from the Zarkon cluster, the Varelians and the Kinthar collective, species known for their physical strength, speed, or advanced intelligence. They were confident, some even arrogantly so. "This is just another training session," one Kinthar whispered to her companion. "I am ready for whatever she throws at us." Humans were fewer in number, but the few present moved with quiet precision. They watched the new cadets, listening to their chatter with mild interest. Some smiled subtly at the alien attempts to intimidate each other, while others simply adjusted their posture and waited. The human cadets had heard about the instructor too, and they knew stories only told half the truth. At the front of the hall, the instructor appeared. She was human, not very tall, but her presence filled the room more than any weapon or ship ever could. Her uniform was simple, no rank badges, no flashy insignia, but her posture and gaze commanded attention. She did not speak at first. She simply observed the cadets, scanning each group with eyes that seemed to notice every detail. The tension in their shoulders, the slight hesitations, even the unspoken thoughts. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. They were used to intimidating others by sheer size, technology, or reputation. But something about her gaze felt different. It was calm but sharp, focused and almost alive with quiet energy. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was clear, firm, but not loud. "Cadets," she said, "today's exercise will test your skill, speed, and ability to adapt. You will face challenges designed to push you beyond what you think is possible. Failure is expected. Learn from it." The cadets glanced at each other. The aliens smirked. "This is it?" a Zarkon muttered. "I have faced storms with twice this intensity." The instructor simply nodded, as if she had heard similar thoughts countless times. Her eyes shifted slightly, and in that instant, the room seemed to quiet even further. Sensors hummed faintly, holograms flickered, and ships in the suspended bays readied themselves. "Begin," she finally yelled. The moment the word left her lips, the room erupted into movement. Cadets sprang to their positions. Zarkons launched drones, Varelians adjusted targeting matrices, and Kinthars activated speed boosters. Every species tried to react instantly, their training kicking in. But before anyone could truly act, before any ship or cadet had taken a single significant step, the instructor moved. It was not fast in the ordinary sense. She did not leap or dash. She simply placed a hand on a holographic console. A series of lights flashed, and the exercise ended. Silence fell again. The cadets froze. Sensors recorded every motion, yet the data showed no meaningful movement had occurred from her side. Only that she had somehow ended the entire scenario instantly. Holographic targets vanished, drones deactivated, and the ships floated still. A few aliens took a step forward, confused. That cannot be," one Varelian stammered. "She did not move fast enough." How did she stop it?" The instructor turned slowly, her gaze sweeping over the room. "Begin means start thinking, not just moving. Execution without understanding is useless," she said simply. A murmur ran through the room. The alien cadets looked at each other with surprise and disbelief. They had expected a demonstration of raw power or skill, maybe an intimidating display of speed. Instead, she had shown them something far more profound: understanding. The exercise had never really begun because she had ended it before anyone could act, anticipating their every move. Human cadets watched quietly, unsurprised. They had seen her do similar things before, and they knew it was not magic or luck. It was skill. It was practice. It was humans at their finest, clever, precise, and unflinching. One of the Zarkons, larger than most cadets, stepped forward. "Explain," he demanded. How did you? The instructor raised a hand. You will learn, she said. Every species here has strengths. Yours is strength and speed, and others is precision. Humans combine awareness, anticipation, and adaptability. Today I showed you the first lesson, knowledge before action. The cadets were stunned. Some shifted nervously, realizing their confidence had been misplaced. They had come prepared to dominate, to show human weaknesses, and instead they had witnessed perfection executed without effort. The instructor gestured to the holographic displays. You will all face challenges designed for your weaknesses and strengths. You will adapt or fail. There is no room for arrogance here. You will learn humility and strategy, and only then will you begin to truly understand. The hall was quiet, but the energy was electric. Aliens began whispering among themselves. This human, she sees everything, one Kinther muttered. We are not ready. Even among the human cadets there was a mix of respect and awe. They had trained under her guidance for years, but seeing her handle a room full of elite alien cadets in this way was always impressive. They knew she demanded perfection, but she also inspired it. The instructor moved to the center of the hall. First exercise complete. You have seen the outcome of moving without understanding. Now you will practice anticipation, coordination, and decision-making. Prepare for the real challenge. The cadets hurried to their stations. Ships hummed to life. Holograms reformed into complex mazes and drones activated. Aliens adjusted settings and strategized while humans observed quietly, ready to follow their instructor's guidance. Hours passed. Each exercise was more challenging than the last. The aliens, though skilled, struggled to keep pace. One Zarkon crashed a drone into a wall of holographic fire because he moved without considering the consequences. A Varelian miscalculated timing, allowing a drone to escape its trap. Meanwhile, human cadets moved with measured precision, predicting outcomes, adjusting strategies instantly, and performing tasks the aliens struggled to comprehend. The instructor did not intervene directly. She watched silently, her eyes sharp and unwavering. Occasionally, she would adjust a parameter in the simulation, subtly shifting the difficulty. Each change tested the cadets' ability to adapt. Humans responded instinctively. Aliens debated and delayed. The difference became clear. Humans were not the fastest, the strongest, or the smartest in traditional metrics, but their ability to think, anticipate, and adapt was unmatched. By the end of the day, most aliens were exhausted. They had pushed themselves to their limits and still found themselves outpaced, not by brute strength but by understanding. Some began to feel respect, others frustration. The instructor finally spoke. Day 1 ends. You have seen human capability. You have also seen the limits of relying only on strength or logic. True skill combines awareness, anticipation, and execution. Tomorrow we continue. Be ready to think faster than you act and act faster than your enemy expects. The aliens looked at each other. Some whispered doubts, others nodded slowly. A few human cadets smiled subtly, proud but not boastful. The instructor had set the tone. Nothing would be easy and no one would be underestimated. As the cadets left the hall, one Varelian muttered to her companion, I underestimated humans. I thought we were stronger, faster, smarter, but we are not ready for what they can do. The instructor stood alone in the center of the hall. Her gaze swept across the room, calm and precise. A faint smile appeared on her face. She knew the first impression had been made. She had shown them the edge humans held, not in raw power but in understanding, anticipation, and execution. This was only the beginning. Outside the academy, the galaxy seemed vast and chaotic, filled with empires, fleets, and rival species. Yet within this chamber, one simple truth was clear. Humans, often underestimated, possessed a skill no one else had fully grasped. And under the guidance of the instructor, they were about to teach the galaxy lessons no one would forget. The cadets, tired and humbled, returned to their quarters. Many stayed up late, reviewing their strategies, wondering how they had failed before they even started. The instructor's lesson was clear. In any challenge, moving first without thought was useless. Understanding, predicting, and acting with precision was what won battles, even before they began. In the quiet of the night, as lights dimmed across the academy, humans prepared silently for the challenges ahead, and aliens prepared their pride and determination. The game had begun even if no one realized it yet, and somewhere deep in the instructor's mind a plan formed. Each exercise, each test, each challenge would push the cadets beyond their limits. They would learn what it meant to respect humans not through stories or legend, but through experience. By sunrise, the Stellar Academy would hum again with activity. Ships would maneuver, drones would buzz. The morning sun peeked over the horizon of the Academy's orbiting platform, casting a pale glow across the decks. The cadets arrived early, some stretching, others reviewing holographic manuals, and a few simply standing in silent anticipation. The first day had ended with awe and confusion, and the rumors about the instructor's abilities had grown even louder. Human cadets moved with calm precision, not out of arrogance, but because they understood one thing. The instructor was not testing raw skill alone. She measured awareness, anticipation, and the ability to think under pressure. Humans had trained under her guidance for years, and they knew this was only the beginning. The alien cadets, however, were restless. Some whispered about the human instructor's strange methods. "We have trained in the harshest environments," a Varelian said, flexing his long arms. "We can survive storms, ambushes, and fleet assaults. How can a human possibly outmatch us?" Another Akinthar shook his head. "It is not strength alone. It is anticipation." She ended the exercise before it began. "How can we prepare for something we cannot see?" At the center of the hall, the instructor awaited, standing calmly as the cadets assembled. She did not smile, nor did she need to. Her presence alone was enough to command attention. "Cadets," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Yesterday you witnessed the result of moving without understanding. Today you will face challenges designed to push your thinking, coordination, and adaptability. Every species here has strengths. You must discover yours and recognize others." She paused and gestured. Holographic simulations sprang to life, forming a massive battlefield. Asteroids floated in the center, while moving drones and floating obstacles created an ever-changing environment. Ships of all shapes and sizes were suspended in readiness, their systems humming. The aliens' eyes widened. "This is more difficult than yesterday," one Zarkon said, scanning the scene. "We must act quickly or we fail." The instructor's gaze swept the room. "You may act," she said. "Remember, anticipation is key." The cadets reacted instantly. Ships darted into positions, drones activated, and alien cadets barked commands at each other. Their movements were swift, precise, and aggressive. Yet even with their combined speed and firepower, they were uncoordinated. Each species relied on its natural strengths, but few thought about collaboration, prediction, or strategy beyond their immediate actions. One human cadet, a young pilot named Lyra, paused. She observed the drones and ships carefully, calculating possible outcomes. Without a single audible command, she moved her ship slightly, redirecting the path of an asteroid that would have struck a Varelian cadet. The maneuver was subtle but effective. The Varelian avoided disaster and looked around, confused by the unexpected action. The instructor's eyes followed every motion. She did not intervene yet. Instead, she let the cadets make mistakes, knowing that the lessons would be clearer when learned firsthand. Minutes passed. Drones collided, ships spun out of position, and the aliens' confidence began to waver. They had underestimated the complexity of the scenario. It was not about speed or raw strength. It was about predicting outcomes, adjusting strategies in real time, and thinking ahead. A Zarkon barked orders at his team. "Attack the drones! Push forward! Do not hesitate." His voice carried authority, but it lacked foresight. One of his drones crashed into an asteroid, and another collided with a floating wall, deactivating instantly. Meanwhile, Lyra and other human cadets moved with quiet efficiency. They coordinated instinctively, anticipating obstacles and adjusting their movements before problems arose. The aliens began noticing the difference, though pride kept some from admitting it. Akinthar, her ship spinning to avoid a sudden drone strike, yelled, "We are wasting time." "We must act faster." The instructor's voice cut through the comm system, calm but firm. "Acting faster without understanding achieves nothing. Anticipate, then move. Precision is more powerful than speed." The Akinthar scowled but tried to follow the instruction. Her movement slowed slightly as she attempted to calculate the drone's trajectories. Some improvement was visible, but she still struggled to coordinate with other species. As the exercise progressed, tensions rose. Aliens argued over strategy, blaming each other for mistakes. A Varelian captain slammed his console in frustration. "This is impossible. How do humans make it look so easy?" The instructor allowed them to reach the breaking point. She knew pressure revealed character, skill, and adaptability. At one point, a small drone launched unexpectedly near the center of the battlefield. A human cadet anticipated its trajectory and subtly adjusted her ship, intercepting the drone before it could cause harm. The aliens stared in disbelief, realizing they could not even see the solution before it happened. By midday, most aliens were exhausted. Their bodies and minds had pushed to extremes, but their instincts alone had not been enough. They began to respect humans, not because humans were physically stronger or technologically superior, but because they could anticipate, adapt, and act with precision. During a short break, a group of Varelians and Kinthars gathered near a console. "I thought we were skilled," a Varelian admitted quietly. "But humans, they are different. They see patterns, predict outcomes, and act before we even understand the situation." Another Kinthar nodded slowly. "I underestimated them. We trained in fleets, storms, and ambushes, yet one human cadet can outmaneuver all of us. We have more to learn than we thought." The instructor observed silently from across the hall. She did not need to intervene. The recognition of skill and respect was already forming among the cadets. It was part of the lesson. The afternoon exercise was even more demanding. This time, the holographic simulation created unpredictable hazards. Asteroids that shifted direction, sudden gravitational anomalies, and moving drones that mirrored the cadets' every move. The scenario required adaptability and coordination more than ever. Aliens tried to rely on brute strength, speed, or advanced computing. Humans relied on observation, instinct, and subtle teamwork. They predicted, adapted, and coordinated with near-perfect timing. The difference was clear. Raw ability alone was not enough in the face of anticipation and understanding. During the exercise, a Zarkon ship was trapped between two shifting asteroid fields. The pilot froze, unsure of how to escape. Lyra, noticing the danger, quickly redirected her ship, creating a path that allowed the Zarkon to pass safely. The Zarkon's eyes widened in shock. "How did she know?" he whispered. Lyra did not respond. She was focused on the simulation, anticipating the next problem. The instructor's philosophy was clear: anticipate, coordinate, act. The humans had learned it, and now the aliens were beginning to notice. Tensions among the aliens grew. Some argued over what went wrong, while others began to consider changing their approach. Pride and habit were strong, but necessity was stronger. They had to adapt or fail. By late afternoon, the instructor finally intervened, ending the exercise with a single gesture. Drones deactivated, asteroids froze in place, and holograms vanished. The cadets floated silently in the hall, exhausted and humbled. "Observation first, then action," the instructor said simply. "Speed and strength alone cannot achieve success. Coordination and anticipation define true skill." The aliens looked at each other. Pride was replaced by humility. Some were frustrated, but most were thoughtful. They had realized that humans were not just ordinary beings. They possessed a quiet brilliance that allowed them to excel in ways others could not. The human cadets gathered quietly, reviewing the lessons learned. They understood the instructor's methods and the importance of observation and planning. They were proud but not boastful, knowing the real challenges were still ahead. One Varelian approached a human cadet hesitantly. "Teach us. Show us how you think," he said. His voice carried respect, tinged with disbelief. "We underestimated your species." The human smiled subtly. "It is not magic," she said. "It is training, observation, and thinking ahead. You can learn it too if you are willing." The instructor watched from across the hall. Her eyes were calm, sharp, and calculating. The first real impression had been made. Humans' unique combination of intuition, anticipation, and adaptability had impressed and unsettled even the strongest alien cadets. As the cadets left the hall, whispers of respect and disbelief followed them. Some aliens discussed how humans could outthink multiple species at once, while others considered how to adjust their own tactics. The academy was buzzing with energy, but also with newfound admiration for the human species. The instructor remained in the hall long after the cadets had gone. She reviewed the data from the simulations, noting patterns, mistakes, and improvements. Each cadet's response had been recorded, each decision analyzed. She would use this information to challenge them further in the coming days. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly across space. The Academy orbited quietly, a beacon of human ingenuity and skill. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats, challenges, and rival species, but within the Academy, humans had proven a subtle but undeniable truth. They were capable of extraordinary things, not through brute force but through mind, instinct, and strategy. Night fell across the Academy and cadets rested, their minds filled with the lessons of the day. Many reflected on the instructor's abilities and humans' unique approach. The hall was silent before dawn. Ships rested in their bays. Drones floated in suspension and holographic displays glimmered faintly under the soft lights of the Academy. For the cadets, today was different. The first day had been a surprise, the second a lesson in patience and anticipation. But today, the instructor had promised a challenge that would test everything they had learned. Cadets arrived early, moving with quiet urgency. The alien groups exchanged tense glances, each aware of their previous failures. Some had spent hours analyzing yesterday's exercises, plotting new strategies. Others were still frustrated, unsure how humans had achieved such flawless execution with seeming ease. Human cadets moved calmly, reviewing simulations on portable devices and speaking softly to each other. They did not hurry because they knew the instructor's test would demand more than speed. It required thought, creativity, and instinct. At precisely sunrise, the instructor entered the hall. She walked slowly to the center, her presence commanding silence without effort. Every eye followed her. Even the most confident alien cadets felt their energy shift, as if the gravity of the room had subtly changed. "Cadets," she said, voice firm but even, "today's exercise will combine every lesson you have learned so far. You will face a dynamic, unpredictable scenario. Success will not come from strength, speed, or brute intelligence alone. Anticipation, adaptability, and coordination are essential. Are you ready?" Some aliens straightened, puffing out their chests while others murmured to each other in concern. The human cadets simply nodded, focused and prepared. The instructor raised a hand. Holographic projections filled the hall. The simulation was immense, a three-dimensional battlefield populated with moving asteroids, shifting gravity zones, and hundreds of autonomous drones. It resembled a chaotic asteroid field, but one that moved and changed unpredictably, reacting to every action taken by the cadets' ships. "This is your challenge," the instructor said. "You have 60 minutes to achieve maximum efficiency in navigation, obstacle management, and threat neutralization. You may work individually or in teams. Begin when ready." The cadets sprang into action. Ships darted toward the simulation. Drones activated and alien cadets shouted orders to one another. The energy in the hall was intense. Immediately, the differences between species became apparent. Sarkons relied on raw strength, pushing their ships through obstacles and destroying drones with brute force. Kinthars tried to calculate every trajectory, but their calculations could not keep up with the rapidly changing environment. Virelians moved with agility, but coordination among them was poor. Humans, however, operated differently. Lyra, the young human pilot who had impressed everyone before, paused briefly to observe the battlefield. She noted patterns, how drones moved, how asteroids shifted, and where gravitational anomalies would appear next. Then, with calm precision, she maneuvered her ship in a path that allowed her to neutralize multiple drones while avoiding collisions. Other human cadets mirrored her strategy. Without speaking, they anticipated each other's moves, coordinating in subtle ways that left no openings for error. Aliens began to notice. A Kinthar pilot, struggling to keep her ship steady among shifting asteroids, shouted, "How do humans see everything at once?" "They predict," a Virelian admitted, barely keeping his ship from colliding with a drone. "They do not react, they anticipate. Every move is planned before it happens." The instructor watched silently from her position at the center. She did not need to intervene yet. The cadets were learning exactly what she intended. The aliens' pride and reliance on traditional skills were being challenged, and the humans' quiet competence set a standard that demanded attention. As the exercise progressed, the scenario became more chaotic. Drones split into unpredictable swarms, asteroids suddenly changed course, and gravity zones shifted rapidly. Aliens struggled, One Zarkon ship collided with a drone, forcing him to reset. A Varelian misjudged the trajectory of a moving asteroid and was briefly trapped in a gravity field. Meanwhile, humans navigated smoothly, anticipating changes and adjusting instantly. Their coordination was instinctive. Lyra directed her ship to create safe paths for others, subtly assisting alien cadets without direct communication. Slowly, some aliens began to notice the humans' method. They were not just moving, they were thinking ahead, predicting outcomes and influencing the battlefield with minimal effort. A Kinder, frustrated but curious, finally spoke aloud. "We need to think like humans. We must anticipate, not just react." The instructor's voice cut through the comm system. "Correct. Observation and prediction are more valuable than speed or strength. Focus on understanding, not only execution." Some aliens adjusted. A Varelian pilot paused, observing a drone's pattern before acting. A Zarkon coordinated with a teammate instead of rushing forward alone. Progress was slow but noticeable. The humans continued to lead quietly, guiding the flow without even realizing it. Then came the critical moment. A massive cluster of asteroids accelerated toward the center of the simulation, accompanied by dozens of aggressive drones. The aliens panicked. Ships veered in multiple directions, some colliding with obstacles, others missing targets entirely. Lyra calculated the paths quickly. She realized that if she moved along a specific trajectory, she could create a temporary shield using the asteroids themselves, blocking the drone's path while allowing cadets behind her to advance safely. With a precise maneuver, she executed it flawlessly. Aliens followed instinctively, amazed that one human ship could have such a decisive impact. The Zarkon, who had earlier been reckless, now adjusted his path and avoided disaster. The Varelian followed the trajectory and neutralized several drones. Even the Kinthar's calculations suddenly became more accurate, influenced by Lyra's subtle guidance. The instructor's eyes gleamed. She had watched countless cadets learn and adapt, but this was exactly what she hoped to see. Humans leading through subtle skill and influence, aliens beginning to recognize a method beyond brute force. Minutes later, the simulation reached its climax. Every drone had been neutralized, obstacles avoided, and ships moved with near-perfect coordination. The aliens looked at each other in disbelief, exhausted but enlightened. The instructor raised her hand. Instantly, the simulation ended. The hall returned to stillness. Cadets floated silently, catching their breath, eyes wide with realization. "You have completed the exercise," the instructor said. "Notice the difference between reaction and anticipation. Strength without foresight achieves little. Coordination without prediction fails. Humans excel because they combine observation, anticipation, and precise execution. You must learn this." Some aliens lowered their heads, humbled by the lesson. Pride had not vanished, but understanding had begun to replace it. They realized that humans were not the fastest, the strongest, or the most technologically advanced, but their ability to anticipate and adapt made them formidable in ways no one expected. One Varelian approached Lyra hesitantly. "Teach us," he said. "Show us your method. We underestimated your species." Lyra smiled faintly. "It is not magic," she said. "It is practice, observation, and anticipation. You can learn it if you try. Pay attention, think ahead, and act with precision." The Kinthar pilot, still catching her breath, nodded. "We will try. Today we see humans are different. Not because of technology, not because of strength, but because of the way you think." The instructor's eyes moved over the room. She knew the impact of today's exercise would last. The aliens had begun to respect humans, not as legends or myths, but as real beings with skill and intellect that could not be ignored. As cadets prepared to leave the hall, the instructor added one final note. "Tomorrow we push further. The galaxy is unpredictable. Your understanding and adaptability will be tested again. Be ready to think faster than you act, and act faster than your opponent expects. This is how humans succeed." The aliens, exhausted and humbled, left quietly. Some discussed strategies, others simply walked in silence, processing what they had learned. Human cadets moved calmly, reviewing their actions and discussing subtle improvements. The hall fell silent once more. The instructor walked slowly among the floating ships, analyzing data from the exercise. Every movement, every decision, every pattern had been recorded. This information would guide future challenges, ensuring that every cadet, human or alien, would be pushed to their limits. Outside the academy, stars sparkled across the dark canvas of space. The vast galaxy stretched endlessly, filled with unknown threats and potential allies. Within the academy, one simple truth was clear. Humans had demonstrated that true skill was more than power, more than speed, and more than intelligence. It was anticipation, adaptability, and precision. That night, the cadets rested, though many stayed awake reviewing simulations. Aliens struggled to understand humans' methods fully, but the respect they had gained was undeniable. They had seen brilliance that was quiet, subtle, and overwhelmingly effective. The instructor watched over them, calm and composed. She knew that by guiding them through challenges without immediately intervening, she had encouraged growth, humility, and learning. She had set the stage for the next exercise where the stakes would be even higher. By sunrise, cadets would return to the hall, facing new challenges designed to. The hall of the Stellar Academy was quieter than usual that morning. Cadets entered slowly, still processing the lessons from the previous days. The simulations had pushed them to their limits. Alien cadets had begun to understand that humans were not to be underestimated, but today would show the full extent of the instructor's methods. At the center of the hall, the instructor stood silently. She did not raise her voice or wave her hands. She simply surveyed the cadets. Her gaze alone carried authority. Humans and aliens alike felt it. The alien cadets, despite their confidence, felt a quiet tension. Even the strongest among them knew that the instructor's challenge today would be different from anything they had faced before. "Today," she began, her voice firm but calm, "you will participate in a scenario that tests everything you have learned. Observation, anticipation, coordination, and adaptability will determine success. Speed, strength, and raw intelligence alone will not be enough. Are you ready?" The cadets nodded, though some aliens hesitated, swallowing nervous tension. Human cadets stood straight, confident in the skills they had practiced under the instructor's guidance. They had observed, learned, and adapted, but they knew the challenge ahead would require their best thinking and their sharpest instincts. The instructor raised her hand. Instantly, holographic projections formed a vast and complex battlefield. This time, it was a full-scale simulation of a multi-ship engagement in a dense asteroid field. Gravity anomalies shifted unpredictably. Drones attacked in coordinated swarms. Some sectors of the battlefield were exposed to sudden hazards, while others were safe only for a brief moment. Every element moved dynamically, responding to the cadets' decisions in real time. "This is your test," the instructor said. "Work as teams or individually, but remember, anticipation is your greatest weapon. Begin." The cadets sprang into action. Ships accelerated, drones activated, and the battlefield transformed into a whirlwind of motion. Alien cadets relied on instinct, strength, and logic. Human cadets relied on careful observation, subtle coordination, and predictive movement. Almost immediately, the difference in approach became apparent. A Varelian ship, piloted aggressively, collided with an asteroid cluster. Another Kinthar miscalculated the trajectory of a swarm of drones, allowing several to slip past and attack their allies. Aliens struggled to adapt in real time, their natural skills insufficient for the complexity of the scenario. Meanwhile, Lyra and the other human cadets moved with calm precision. They predicted hazards before they occurred, adjusted paths for their teammates, and neutralized threats almost before the drones fully materialized. Their coordination was subtle yet flawless. One human ship would divert a swarm of drones, while another moved in synchronization to complete the objective with minimal risk. The instructor observed every motion. She did not need to intervene. The lesson was unfolding naturally. Humans led not through power or intimidation, but through observation, anticipation, and quiet mastery. Aliens began to notice, their initial frustration slowly turning into respect. A Kinthar pilot shouted in frustration, "How do they see everything? How do they react before it happens?" "They anticipate," a Varelian muttered as his ship narrowly avoided collision. "They are not reacting, they are predicting. Their moves are prepared before danger even exists." The simulation grew even more complex. Asteroids shifted unpredictably. Gravitational distortions changed suddenly, and drones attacked in unpredictable patterns. Aliens panicked, ships spun, and coordination faltered. Human cadets, however, adapted instantly. They created paths of safe movement, subtly guiding others while neutralizing threats themselves. Lyra noticed a massive cluster of drones advancing in a spiral formation. Instead of attacking recklessly, she calculated their trajectory, moved her ship into a key position, and caused the drones to collide with each other. A ripple effect saved several alien ships that had been trapped in the center. The effect was precise, subtle, and almost invisible to anyone not paying close attention. The aliens were stunned. One Zarkon, usually brash and confident, lowered his gaze. "We are not ready for humans," he admitted quietly. "Not in raw strength, not in speed, not even in technology. They see the battlefield differently. They think differently." The instructor's eyes glimmered with quiet satisfaction. Her cadets had absorbed the lessons of anticipation and coordination. The aliens were beginning to understand what humans had mastered. That skill was not about moving first or striking hard, but about thinking ahead and guiding the flow of events with precision. Minutes passed. The battlefield became a complex dance of ships, drones, and obstacles. Aliens struggled to adapt. Humans moved with instinctive harmony, predicting outcomes and subtly influencing the flow of events. Lyra guided another Varelian ship away from danger without a word, her ship creating a path that seemed almost magical in its timing. By the end of the exercise, nearly all threats had been neutralized. Ships floated silently as the instructor raised her hand, ending the simulation. Holograms vanished, drones deactivated, and the hall returned to stillness. "Observe the result," the instructor said calmly. Humans did not act faster than everyone else. They acted with foresight. They anticipated and guided. True skill lies in understanding and precision, not in mere strength or speed. The aliens looked at each other, humbled and thoughtful. Pride had not disappeared entirely, but a new sense of respect had taken its place. They had witnessed humans in their element, performing feats that seemed impossible, not through raw ability, but through anticipation, subtle coordination, and understanding. One Varelian approached Lyra carefully. "Teach us. Show us how you think," he said quietly. "We underestimated your species." Lyra smiled faintly. "It is not magic," she said. "It is practice, observation, and anticipation. You can learn it if you try. Watch carefully, predict outcomes, and act with precision. That is the key." Even the Kinthar pilot, exhausted from the simulation, nodded. "We will try. Today we see humans are different, not because of technology or strength, but because of the way you think." The instructor's gaze swept the room. She had achieved what she intended. The aliens had learned humility and respect. They had witnessed that humans' capabilities were subtle but overwhelming. The differences were not visible at first, but the results were undeniable. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will face a scenario that tests leadership as well as skill. You must coordinate, anticipate, and influence not only your own outcome, but that of others around you. Humans excel because they combine instinct, foresight, and teamwork. You will learn the same." As the cadets left the hall, whispers of amazement followed them. Alien cadets discussed strategy and coordination, realizing that traditional reliance on strength or logic alone would not suffice. They had learned that humans could subtly shape the battlefield and guide outcomes through intelligence, observation, and prediction. The human cadets moved quietly, reviewing their own performance. They had anticipated, adapted, and guided. They understood that the instructor's lessons were about far more than raw skill. It was about seeing possibilities, predicting actions, and acting decisively in a way that others could not. That evening, the hall was quiet. The instructor remained, reviewing the data. Every movement, decision, and subtle adjustment had been recorded. Each cadet's choices had been analyzed, and the results would guide future exercises. She knew that the respect humans had earned today would influence the cadets' growth. Outside, the stars of the galaxy shone brightly. Vast and chaotic, the universe contained threats, opportunities, and unknown challenges. Yet within the Stellar Academy, one truth was becoming clear. Humans were capable of remarkable skill, not through brute force but through anticipation, precision, and understanding. Night fell, but many cadets stayed awake, reviewing strategies, simulations, and mistakes. Aliens tried to comprehend humans' methods, humbled, yet inspired. The instructor's quiet influence had reshaped their understanding. By sunrise, the cadets would return to face new challenges. Humans would continue to demonstrate subtle brilliance, while aliens would continue to learn, some through observation, others through trial and error. The instructor had created an environment where mastery was not given. It was earned through understanding and anticipation. In the weeks that followed, the lessons grew more intense. Cadets faced increasingly complex simulations, combining unpredictable hazards, coordinated attacks, and rapidly changing environments. Humans excelled quietly, their intuition, teamwork, and foresight shining at every opportunity. Aliens adapted slowly, learning humility and respect and gradually improving. Through it all, the instructor observed, intervening only when necessary. Her method was clear: allow mistakes to teach, show mastery subtly, and let cadets discover the value of anticipation, precision, and understanding. Eventually, the final exercise arrived, a massive multi-fleet simulation combining everything the cadets had learned. Human cadets led with instinctive precision, anticipating every obstacle and guiding others subtly but decisively. Alien cadets coordinated better, learning from humans' quiet example. At the end of the exercise, the instructor raised her hand. The simulation ended. Ships floated still, drones deactivated, and holograms vanished. Cadets, exhausted yet exhilarated, realized the scale of